I've taken of Lucy. So I've got the best, the final, and the raw. So in this case, we're going to go into the raw. So here are the raw images. I've had a quick look through the images and I've taken out any of the ones that I consider they're just either half blinking or they just don't look becoming. So what I've got is I've got all of these images here. So these are the ones done on white, hair over the shoulder, hair not done on shoulder. You're constantly talking with the client while you're shooting. So ask for permission to touch their hair, put it over their shoulder. Usually, like in the instance here, the far shoulder has the hair long. The close shoulder has their hair short and it goes over the shoulder. Sometimes when the hair goes over the shoulder, it doesn't look right because they've taken all of their hair to one side and you just see the nape of the neck. You don't want that unless it's a glamour shot. But if this was for work, if it was for LinkedIn or for a profile headshot, you can see here that the hair comes out a long way and it needs to be tamed and brought in a little bit. So I'm looking at all of this as I'm shooting. So here's a shot that I'm thinking, okay, this is good. So from the hair being right out there, I'm thinking, no, that's not good enough. I need to bring this hair in. So I did. In theory, you could wet the hair down with a spray bottle, get the client to do that. In hair that's really frizzed out, they need to tame it in some way, shape or form. So now we're moving on to the blacks. So you can see that the black, I've got enough hair light here that I don't need any more coming from above or behind. If I did have a light coming from behind, I'd have this more accentuated. However, I'm happy the way it is. You can see here that the hair, when it goes straight back, it really wants to frizz out. I brought it to the front here on one side. In this case, I'm happy with it. That's fine. And then looking. Have I got a hero shot? I've got it to tilt the head. Sometimes you get the client to stop smiling just to reset their smile. You get them to tilt their head just to free up their neck muscles and to get them to move. So then we're moving on to the grey. So I reshot the grey card because it's on the other side of the studio. And so the light could be different. The light might reflect off something and give a different hue. In this case, I checked my grey card and it was fine. It didn't need any adjustments, but at least I know that. And so then away we go again. It's the same sort of shoot. You can see here how the hair was here, and then I get the hair tame. That's the whole point. Keep looking at the end result. We're always after the end result. I got Lucy to turn her shoulders away completely just to bring her face back. That gives a completely different dynamic to the shot compared to where the face is more in front. So give your client options. The shots are for them, not for you. They're actually for the people looking at them. So give them options. They know their demographic. They know who they're pitching to. I've given this one some stars because to me this is a classic shot. It's a nice, gentle smile. It's all about the eyes. It's always about the eyes. So if a potential client is looking at this image of Lucy, she would then, or he would then be looking at her eyes, and the eyes looks like she's listening. I talk throughout a shoot, so the client actually is listening to my instructions. And so I do tell them, turn this way, chin up, chin down, tilt your head one way, tilt your head the other way. I'm giving these instructions for a reason other than to change the look of the shot. I need to change the look of the shot to give the client options, but I also need them to be listening to my commands, and that way they are actually listening to me, and that comes through in their eyes that they're listening, and it also puts them more at ease because if there's no talking going on, they don't know what to do. This is foreign to them, a foreign environment, and it's like, please tell me what to do. So in that case, it makes it easier for them, and they also look like they're listening. So you get some with a gentle smile. So you reset the smile, then gentle top teeth, and then this is another classic look. This is more of a glamour shot look where it's the look over the shoulder. Raise your shoulder up, meet it with the chin as best you can. Some people really do make the chin and shoulder touch, but you don't have to. Lucy found a comfortable position, and I was comfortable with that as well. looking through the viewfinder thinking, yes, this is a nice image for her, and it worked out quite nice. So, so these are my images. So now over here, I've got my best. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Command A, I'm going to highlight the whole lot. I'm going to come up to batch rename. So now I want to rename the whole thing. So in this case, I'm going to batch rename it to Lucy Home Pics Photography. Okay, so we've got one. There we go. And I'm going to rename that. Just having a look here. Photography's got to have a space there. Okay. It's got a dot for some reason. Get rid of that dot. And rename. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm renaming all of the images. I'm going to send all these so if Lucy was a client, I'm going to resend these images to the client now. I'm going to make them JPEGs and send them to the client. In this case, I've kept my grey card in. In most cases, I'd take my grey card out. The reason why I've renamed them from 1 through to there's 69 images here. So 1 through to 69, so I'll come down to the bottom, and this is the 69th image. So the reason why I rename them is so when the client gets them, let's say on Dropbox, when they pick out an image, all they need to do is to give me the number. And so I let my clients pick, so they'll go through these, and you've pre-arranged on how many that they can pick. If it's a headshot, they may only want one. However, in this case, I shot white, black, and grey, so they could pick 3. They go 1 white, 1 grey, 1 black. If not, they may pick a lot of images and say, can you clean all these images? And then it goes into post-production costs, and you give those to the client as well and say, look, you can pick as many as you like. I don't mind, but I am going to charge you for the extra time it takes me to clean these images up. So what to clean in these images? That's the nape of the neck I was talking about before. You can see the difference there, and then I controlled it, so I brought it back. That doesn't look as good as that. That around the corner shot right at the end, you could bring the hair around and show the nape of the neck. That's the only time it really does work. But in this case, I prefer the hair here anyway. Okay, so let's say Lucy's picked her images, and so then I have a little list of numbers, and then I get my numbers and I just bring them over into my best. So doesn't matter what the numbers are, I don't even have to look through anything. I just go through, I pick them out, and I was going, okay, these are the shots that you like, I'm happy, you like them, you chose them, I'm happy with that, you want those. So now they're in the best folder. Once they're in the best folder, then I can do any post-production that I need to do. So if I open this image up now, it's in RAW, I'm having a look, I'm happy with the way the shot is. So then I open that in Photoshop proper, and there's nothing much I can do there, so I'm just going to open it up. Once the shot is opened, there is things that you can do. So layers are my best friend. So if I go into duplicate layer, and then I make a background copy, and then if I go into filter, I go into liquify. In liquify, then it's a little bit out of your screen of what I'm doing here, but in liquify, I can then tame the hair even more. Don't want to move that arm too much, so I'm going to come out to the side. You can do things like that, just tame it. So if it is a little bit wild, you can tame that down. Let's say her cheek, you could tame her cheek ever so slightly as well. And you do this on some clients, not all the shots need doing, but just to tame it ever so slightly. And you may find that the client will appreciate that. So let's look at before and after. So that's from there to there. That's just one slight little example of how when you give the final images to the client, they'll go, yep, I'm really happy with that. And so then in Clone Tools, I pick up a color of the skin. I make sure my brush is feathered, and then from my skin color, That's too much, obviously, so I'm going to come down, boink, down to 22%. Let's have a look there. And it just... So Lucy, at her young age, she doesn't have bags under her eyes, but if she did, if she was an older woman, and you could see the shadow here, well, that's how you'd easily get rid of it. I don't get rid of them completely, I just get rid of them a little bit. So if I come in on eyes, her eyes are lovely and clear. If a client does have yellow in their eyes, let's say her teeth here, they're not yellow, they're lovely as well. Lucy didn't wear any lipstick today. Let's have a look. So even on lipstick, if you wanted to put a slight colour on there, I'm now in brush tool. I pick red. This is her natural colour of her lip. And then I'm thinking, okay, that'll match the colour. I'm going to bring this right down. And then it'll just add a little bit more colour. And it's the natural colour of her lip. I'm looking at that compared to that. So 1, 2, 3. Just come back one. So go away. Does it look natural? And then come in a little bit. And they say, yeah, that looks fairly natural. So then I want to use this tool here. I'm going to make that a lot smaller. I'm going to highlight just the teeth, get rid of the lips. Okay, so this is how I take yellow out of teeth. Lucy's, they don't really need doing, but I'm going to show you anyway. So I highlight just the teeth area. I don't want to highlight the lips at all. You don't want any lips at all, or gums. And you really have to make sure that there's no gums in this shot, because we're about to take the reds and yellows out. So what I do here, and you could be finicky and really get it as a close match, I come into adjust, I come into hue, saturation, I then come into where it says master, I choose red, I bring it down to the halfway mark, I choose yellow, bring it down to the halfway mark. I don't want to get rid of it completely because then it'll look a bit weird. What I've done there is I've taken out the reds and yellows, but I haven't adjusted the luminosity. So then I get rid of that and I have a look. So what's happened in effect is there's that sort of yellow that was there and then boom, it's gone. Okay, so, but I haven't adjusted the luminosity. So it's the same luminance. If I wanted to adjust the luminosity, I would come to this tool, and then I've got highlights, midtones and shadows. In this case, it's midtones. I'm going to come up, let's have a look now, and 16% is too heavy duty. I'm going to come down to about 8%. We'll just have a look there, and you can paint this in, and it'll bring up the luminosity if you need to. Be careful of that. So that's without it, and that's with it. But be careful with that, because the eyes are the prize. I don't want anything to distract from Lucy's eyes. So with that, I'm going to come in just a little bit more. And if you're going to run the luminosity under someone's eyes, if they're not bright enough, only run it along the bottom. Don't do it to the top, because what's happening is you have a natural shadow from the eyelids at the top. Keep those there. If you just brighten up just underneath, it'll look natural compared to if you just do it all over the place. All right, so there we go. So we just have a look. So the eyes are the prize. I'm happy with that as a shot. There's a stray hair here. There's a stray hair here. Now that I've seen that, I cannot unsee it, and it's distracting to me. So I'll come in, I'll have a look of the best way to get rid of that. So I'm thinking, okay, I can fill in hair here. I can bring it in and push it in, or I can wipe it out. So if I try and wipe it out, if I get this, go up to 100%, this is my clone stamp. Don't have your feathering like that. You have to bring it right down to like 75%, and then it'll give it sort of a real looking edge to it. It'll be like a feathered edge to it. So if I did that, I'm not happy with that. There's before and there's after. It does make a difference, but I'm not happy with it. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to make a circle around it. I'm I'm going to go into filter, going to go into liquefy again, and I just want to see if I can push it in. A little bit more like that, and then once that's been done, get rid of my friend there. I come in, I have a look, I get my clone stamp. I'm at 100%. I'm going to bring that back to about 55. I'm now going to feather it a little bit to about 50%. I'm going to bring this down, and then no, not happy with that. It's all about trial and error here too. So I'm going to bring my size down. I'm going to feather it completely, and then I'm just going to have a look here. It's one up, one down. I'm coming in at a slight angle because the light is coming up at an angle as well. So if I come back from that, that'll match more. I'm happy with that compared to what it was. My little friend down here, do I get rid of that or not? I'll get rid of that, let's say. But this loop of hair. So you have to look at it, you have to think about it and say, right, what am I actually going to do here? So can I just get rid of it and leave that little loop of hair? Just to make it less prominent. It's still there, it's still annoying me, so I have to get rid of that. So just let me have a look. Then the other option is you get your Band-Aid tool, but watch the mess the Band-Aid tool makes. So I take a clone of something that this is what it's going to match up to, and then I get rid of that. Let's have a look. It could make an absolute mess of it, or it might be all right. Not bad for a starting point. Alright, so that's not too bad. So I'll just have a look here. It's in the shade, so I'll let it stay in the shadow. I can still see that too obvious. I'll pull out, I have a look. I'll bring this back. I'm going to feather this up. Yep, it's feathered. I'll bring that up. And soften that. Okay, so I've got rid of that loop of hair. This one's tidied up a lot more. Looking at her eyes, I'm happy with that. I've got a little smidge here on that part of the t-shirt. I'm not happy with that. So there's only one way to really tame that, and that is to go back into filter, into liquefy, and then make it nice and small. Not too small, what are you doing? And then bring that in. I know it's being a bit fussy about it, but all the same. And you don't want things to look 100%. To get things too perfect sometimes can be a distraction as well. So basically I'm happy with that. I'm thinking, yep, that's good. I'm happy with that. Okay, just a final check. I'm looking as an overall thing. I do have a shadow under the nose, but I'm happy with that. I'll live with that. There's no blemishes to get rid of. Her eyes are lovely and sharp. Everything's great. So then, okay, so I'll call that a finished shot. Looking at my, okay, my RGB. So here's my RGB here. Here's my properties, okay? So then I'm going to have a look there. I've got 248 and 249. Now 255, and it's darker on this side. Okay, so having a look down here, I've got 230, 232, darker again. Okay, it's fairly even in being white, but there is a gradient where it's darker down here, and this is the brightest point up here where it's 250. So with that, am I happy with that? Yep, I'm happy with that. If it was for a client where they all needed to look the same, I'd change it. The way I do that is, there's a couple of ways. You can either cut Lucy out altogether, or you can do it this way, and then make sure, just come in a little bit tighter, make sure that all the hair's there. You see all the flyaway hair? The sacrifice you make by doing this is you're about to ditch the flyaway hair, which makes it seem real, and customers don't particularly like it. The other way to do it is with the eraser tool, where you erase the background. But we'll have a look at this way first. So once I'm in this tool, then I come up, I select it, and then here we go. So once I'm here, I can decide what radius I want. I've got 4 here. I'm smoothing it. I don't feather it. I contrast it a little bit, and I shift the edge minus 18's a bit strong. I'll come back to about 10. I can decontaminate the colours. So if it was on a blue screen or a green screen, I could decontaminate there. But in this case, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to refine the edge of the hair. And then I'm going to say, okay, what have we got here? The output, new document with layer mask. I don't need it, so I don't want a new document, I want a new layer with a layer mask. So then we open it up, and here it is here. Now if I now go into layers and flatten the image, sometimes the hair just isn't right. Hair, especially with a lot of flyaway hair, you want the hair to stay there, but you want to be able to see the background. Now, you can see from my RGB here, it's now 255 all over the place. 255 everywhere. So if I had a client who needed uniformity for all of their staff, you do need 255. There's 2 ways to do it. You either punch out the background with a flash to begin with, but then you need your subject to stand far enough away from the backdrop that they don't get splashback of the bright light, or if not, you've got to cut them out and then brighten up the background, and it'll look like that. So I'll show you the difference there. So 1, save as, and I want to call it white. All right, so that's one with a pure white background, and that's one without. You can't really, especially if they're not going to make it any bigger than this on their website, you can't really tell the difference on the flyaway hair. They both look fine. Here's the original, so looking at 2 of these side by side. So here's the side by side comparison. You can see just a little bit of cheek has come in here. A little bit has come in on this side. The flyaway hair is missing here. The hair is a bit more tamed on this side. The little lump on the top of the shoulder is gone. The little ringlet of hair here is gone. So they're the 2 shots side by side. And in my book, I prefer this one. If I was going to use that in a professional shot for a website, hi, I'm Lucy, how can I help? To me, that makes sense. And that's it, basically. So with that, if I've cleaned something, it can go into the final. So that's in the final now, and there was one above it as well. So you go through all of your best images, and then once they've cleaned, you put them into the final. So then when they're in the final, here they are. And this is what I'm going to send to the client at the end of the day when it's all done and dusted, and I've cleaned up the selected images that she's got in her best images, which are here. So I'll clean up all of these, I'll put them in the best when they're finished, and then I'll send them off to the client.